Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to look at what I'm going to call Vitality Band. Now, it's one of those, it's an item, right, but it doesn't actually have a parallel in Pokemon video games, and we've seen the literal translation. I've had a chat with some of my friends, a lovely Matthew Arrive among them, and Primal Lugia and a few others, and we decided that, you know what, the best translation of this is probably Vitality Band. But it is another one of these lovely item cards that was leaked to me by my wonderful Japanese source, all of which have actually gone and come true. So yes, I did mention this in a previous video, but we need a video where we know it's real, we know exactly what it does, we've got a picture and all of that good stuff. So, what does it do? Well, it is a tool, and it attaches to one of your Pokemon, and it allows that Pokemon to do an extra 10 damage to the defending Pokemon. This is good. This is really good. Now, we don't have a parallel in the Pokemon video games, but it doesn't have to look a bit like Choice Band or Muscle Band. They're the same kind of item, they look kind of similar, and they both do similar things. Muscle Band lets you do an extra 20 damage, and Choice Band lets you do an extra 30 damage to EX and GX Pokemon. Why would we ever play this then over Muscle Band, given that Muscle Band is objectively literally twice as good? We wouldn't. Like, as simple as that. We're not playing this over Muscle Band. If you head into the expanded format where you've got a choice of either this or Muscle Band, you're not choosing this, you're choosing Muscle Band. Now, if you want a really awkward situation, let's go for this, all right? Let's say you're against Magic Odds Mr. Mime, and you are doing an odd amount of damage. Maybe you would want to play this to put yourself in an even amount of damage so you get through the ability, rather than playing Muscle Band that would keep you at an odd amount of damage. But come on, you could just play Choice Band. The fact of the matter is, it's not as good as Muscle Band. But I've said this about a bunch of items. It doesn't matter. Like, it's completely irrelevant. It's all well and good saying, well, it's not as good as Muscle Band. We don't have Muscle Band. Muscle Band isn't an option. So we can fixate on the fact we don't have Muscle Band, or we can just go, okay, let's move on, shall we? Simple as that, ladies and gentlemen. Simple as that. Okay. So, with all of that borne in mind, is it good? Yes. It absolutely is really, really good. Because it's extra damage. And doing extra damage is always good. We've seen this time and time again over the history of the Pokemon trading card game. When the base set came out, we were all playing Plus Power. Because it was the only thing we had, right? That was how we did a little bit of extra damage. When the Pokemon trading card game base set released, we basically went, right, let's use low energy attackers like Hitmonchan, and then use Plus Power to make sure we're doing a little bit of extra damage, and then use Gust of Wind so that we can choose which Pokemon we're going after. As a side note, you did also play stuff like energy removal to slow down your opponent, but that's what we did, right back in the base set. And this is better than Plus Power. Well, okay, depends how you look at it. Plus Power, you can play more than one during your turn, but when they're in the discard, they're essentially gone, you cannot reuse them. This you can attach and use turn after turn after turn. There's pros and cons. But we all played Crobat G back in the day. Crobat G was a Pokemon that you had to put in your deck and then play to the bench and take up a bench space to drop one damage counter on your opponent's Pokemon. Eat it. Now, to be fair, we did also have Poker Turn back then. Hit it down multiple times, but everybody still played it. And Muscle Band saw a huge amount of play, and Choice Band saw a huge amount of play. When it was a thing, Silver Bangle saw a huge amount of play. It was very similar to Choice Band, but it was only for non-EXs against EXs. You couldn't just put it on an EX to hit an EX. Doing extra damage has always been good. One of my mantras on this channel as we've been making all the videos has been, doing extra damage is always good. And this allows you to do extra damage. It's absolutely brilliant. And the other thing is, what other tool are we going to play right now? So time was that we would basically play Floatstone or Choice Band. They were basically the two best options. And then Floatstone rotated out. Now Choice Band's rotated out. There's a bunch of people playing a skateboard, and certainly if you're playing a Jirachi deck, where when it's in the active you use a great ability but it goes to sleep, a skateboard both reduces a retreat cost to 0 and lets you retreat while asleep. Yeah, cool. In a deck playing Jirachi, you're definitely going to play that. And there are decent tools around. I mean, if you're playing a Psychic deck, Spell Tag's pretty good for dropping some extra cheeky damage. And if you're not worried about special conditions, U-Turn's pretty good for helping you to retreat. But there's no tool around at the moment that we have to play in every deck, which gives an opening here. It's kind of like how if you don't know what stadium to play at the moment, if there's not one you want to play, you go Power Plant or Chaotic Vortex. If you're playing a fire deck, you're going to be playing Giant Half. It's pretty gosh darned important. Helps you search out your fire energy. But if you don't know what to play, then you're probably going to either go for Power Plant to turn off GX abilities, or you're going to go for Chaotic Swell, so that even though you don't have something that you desperately want to play, you at least can stop your opponent playing their stadium of choice. It's like that here. If you don't know what to play, this becomes your de facto tool of choice. I expect to see a huge amount of play for this particular tool, because if you don't have anything better, it's pretty good. And also, while we're here, Field Blower. We lost Field Blower to the rotation. Now, I'm assuming that at some point in the not too distant future, we're going to get ourselves another item, which is going to be able to discard tools from your opponent's Pokemon. I assume at some point in the not too distant future that's going to be the case. But as it stands at the moment, our tools are safe. So it's like when I was comparing it a moment ago to Plus Power. Not only can you pop this on and use it turn after turn after turn, but the reality is that your opponent is very unlikely to have any possible way of removing it. But I keep talking about it's the best we've got and there's no way to remove it. Is it actually good? Yes. And the thing is, right, I could sit here for an hour or two and just give you a whole bunch of options of times when this is going to be great. But that would take an inordinate amount of time. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a few examples to show you how big this can be. So take Reshiram and Charizard. Reshiram and Charizard is really very good. But it wasn't so good against Pikachu and Zekrom once it lost Choice Band. The reason is Pikachu and Zekrom is better set up for 2-hit KOs. Reshiram and Charizard was getting big KOs using Choice Band. But Pikachu and Zekrom's got 240 HP, Reshiram and Charizard does 230 damage. Do you see the problem, ladies and gentlemen? Do you see the problem? Well, now you just whack one of these on. Now all of a sudden that 230 becomes 240, now you get a one-hit KO and life is good. Oh yeah, that's actually really quite nice. Go team, ladies and gentlemen, go team. The other day I showed you Indeedee V, and I told you that if a Mewtwo and Mew only keeps 2 energy on, then Indeedee V will do 10 damage base, plus 60 for each energy on. Their 260s is 120, that's 130 total, with the weakness for Mewtwo and Mew, assuming no Jirachi, you're hitting 130. Times 2 is 260. Oh. Yeah, you're actually 10 damage short. Well, now all of a sudden you go for this. And the fun thing is, right, if you're playing Vitality Band, the reality is that your opponent's going to go, well, even if I only put 2 energy on, they're going to get a KO with Vitality Band, so I don't need to limit myself to 2 energy, whereas without Vitality Band, limiting them to 2 energy would stop a KO. So I might as well just go for it. I might as well just attach as much energy as I need, and then the fun thing is you won't even need the Vitality Band. And as a fun side note, it's another great little trick for fighting decks. Fighting decks already have Diancie Prism Star to do an extra 20, they already have Martial Arts Dojo to do an extra 10. This is if they've got a fighting energy attached. Basic. or 40 if they're behind on prizes. Neither of them are tools, so they can add this, and all of a sudden fighting decks can actually be adding 70 damage to whatever it is that they're doing. Something like a Stonejourner V for a single energy can now hit 110 damage, which is a little bit ludicrous, but kind of fun. It also means that Sylvali GX, the new really good one, will go down. And this is kind of my point, right? If you've got a Stonejourner V, you're hitting 40 damage. You then add on Dynasty Prism Star, you're doing 60. You're behind on prizes, use Martial Arts Dojo, you're doing 100. Times 2 for weakness is 200. Sylvali GX should be safe from your Stonejourner. They should be going, ha ha ha, you're just a tiny bit short. Then you drop a Vitality Band down, they're hitting 110. Double for weakness is 220, and now they are going down. And now all of a sudden Stonejourner's getting a one-hit kill on a Sylvali for a single energy. And they are just a few examples. Believe me when I say there will be many, many more. A lot of the time, people are just going to chuck this in their deck because, well, doing an extra 10 damage might be useful at one point. But there are going to be an awful lot of matchups where one Pokemon is just 10 damage away from getting a KO on a Pokemon they really want to get a KO on, and oh look, now this comes in and saves the day. Seriously, it's hard to overstate how good this is and how much play it will see. The only real downside, the only real criticism is it is objectively worse than something like Muscle Band, but in the standard format where we don't have Muscle Band, who cares? It's a 5 WOSI card, and I don't think it's particularly close. But I'd like to know what you think, ladies and gentlemen, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WasiPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have Pokemon in. But I like a lot of games. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.